Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today, we have Tracey Minutolo, who is a side hustle coach helping motivated 9-to-5ers design, launch, and grow profitable side businesses they're passionate about. So let's learn a little bit how you can get your side hustle on today. Let's give a warm welcome to Tracey. So Tracey, welcome.
Thank you, Byron. It's great to be here.
So tell me a little bit more. How did you get the idea that you wanted to start a side hustle? Because so many people, their focus is that 9-to-5, and you decided to do a little bit more.
Yeah, well, for me, it really started with this desire to do something about my debt. So I went to college in the late 90s, and my student loan followed me well into this decade, and it wasn't really something I was happy about. But through a lot of different life events and moving from one coast to another coast, excuse me, I ended up with a lot of debt kind of following me around. And about 3 or so years ago, well, before that, the get out of debt journey is a little bit longer than the side hustle journey. But about 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to start a side business versus like going to get a part-time job or trying to earn a couple extra bucks doing something here and there. I wanted actually to start something more sustainable, an actual side business. And so, like I said, the need at that point, or the desire, really came from just wanting to get out of debt, but it ended up becoming like this amazing journey that has led to so many other things. And so that's kind of what fires me up about helping other folks to dip their toes in the water of entrepreneurship and get their businesses going.
And that's fascinating that you decided to create a business instead of what most people do in terms of just getting a second job or a third job. What was that deciding factor? Because there's so many people who end up taking that second job instead of starting a business that you decided upon, this is a better route. Yeah,
well, I had most of my adult life, I've had 2 jobs. I've done the second job. I used to work at a bookstore at night. I've also, at different times in my life, when I moved out west, I moved into a town that didn't really have a lot of my industry there. So I ended up working at like a bookstore and delivering pizza and kind of like cobbling my income together for the year that I lived up in the Pacific Northwest. So I had always been doing all of these different things for money, but it just always felt like, I don't know, I wanted more control over the amount of time that I'd be putting into it, and also just the types of things that I would be doing. I really wanted to find something that was like a lot of fun for me rather than just a way to bring in extra income.
Okay. And then how did you decide upon ultimately your first side hustle out of all the different things that you could possibly have done?
So I spent a long time brainstorming and coming up with ideas and like big lists of ideas or for potential businesses I could start, and crossing those ideas out and just thinking, I could never come up with a good business idea. So I am a lab supervisor, and I'm a microbiologist by training, and I work in quality control. And so my first inclination was, okay, I should look to what my training is in for potential, side business ideas, and just kept hitting dead ends there. I couldn't imagine, doing other than maybe a consulting gig or something. But I was like, how does being a microbiologist translate into a side hustle? Kind of odd. So I racked my brain and I thought about different hobbies I had, and I just spent a long time going back and forth. And it probably took me 7 to, 9 months to really come up with the idea that stuck. And the skill set that I ended up really kind of turning to and being excited about was something I actually had done in a volunteer capacity. So here in San Diego, I was involved in a few different nonprofits, small nonprofits here. And I ended up doing a lot of the social media work for them and promoting events online and things like that. And primarily just out of necessity, because nobody else on my teams wanted to mess with social media. So it became the thing that, I was like, I'll do it, sure. And it ended up being so much fun that I just kind of went off and running with it and started studying up on it a little bit and just enjoyed it. And so I don't know why it took me so long to come to this. Maybe it was because it was a volunteer opportunity and I just didn't really take it seriously. But at one point, I was listening to some podcasts. I can't remember exactly which one it was at this point in time, but I heard about this thing called a virtual assistant. And I thought, wow, okay, this is intriguing. So I did a little more research into it, and I was like, I could totally do this. So I kind of set out at that point to think about who I wanted to serve. And it was kind of a natural leap for me to want to reach out to podcasters because I was just really kind of just obsessed with podcasts, like in the personal development and personal finance space. So I followed a few shows. I ended up reaching out to a couple of the hosts and with a couple of questions around virtual assistants. And really not, at that time, I wasn't really necessarily looking to land a client. I was more just putting out feelers as far as, hey, this is my skill set, and this is what I understand a virtual assistant does. Am I missing something here? What could I do to make myself an even better fit to have a VA business? Like, what are the types of things that you look for? What was your experience working with a VA? And what I got back was amazing responses from some of these folks, like really cool like resources. I got an ebook from one of these guys that I wrote to, and then two of them actually ended up turning into clients. So it was an awesome exercise. And so then I was off and running. I had a VA business serving podcasters for a little while.
Oh, excellent. That is fascinating how you came about it, because you saw something based off of what you were doing and then you took action on it. When you did that, did you have any fears of rejection? Like they say, no, don't have time to respond to you, or who are you? Did you have any fears at the time?
Yeah, I definitely did. But I think it was more just a matter of, well, I mean, what do I really have to lose? I mean, this is something new that I'm exploring, and, I sent an email out to a good handful of podcasters. So even if, I get one response back, it'll be a win for me. I'll get something from it. And yeah, so I think when it comes to any type of new opportunity, it's like, that's, for me anyway, that's part of the thrill, is like feeling that fear and then just blasting through it. It's a little personal challenge.
Right. Oh, definitely. You have to blast through the fears. That's super important, just because it's something that paralyzes people consistently. Because, they'll think, that, what if someone just says no? Well, what if they say yes? It's that constant battle that people go through.
Yep, exactly.
So obviously, this is where you started off at. Then how did it evolve into becoming the side hustle coach? That's a great transition, is you start off just being that VA for these podcasters, then it just keeps on evolving. What was that journey? Yeah,
so for the 1.5, 2 years that I was a VA, I got exposed to a lot of really just awesome people who were just doing amazing things. And I think there's definitely something in here for folks that are in the 9-to-5 and have, kind of been in the 9-to-5, kind of expanding their horizons and reaching out to people that are doing, something in the entrepreneurial world, even if it is only part-time. But there's like a mindset shift that occurs, I think, when you expose yourself to people that are doing some things that maybe you would never have entertained before, or maybe your friends aren't, doing. It's just, I don't know, it just opens up your world. So I ended up working closely with Scott Barlow of Happen to Your Career. And he's got an amazing podcast. And he was my primary client at that time. And just basically getting immersed in H2YC, Happen to Your Career, and the production behind the scenes for the podcast, but also diving in and interacting with his community on Facebook. So he's got a few different Facebook groups, and primarily career-focused, as the name would sound like. But he also did have a side business program that he was running about a year, I don't know, maybe it's about 1.5 years ago now. And so I was actually a part of the team putting together the program. So helping with worksheets and just some of the course content. And he was bouncing ideas off of me, and just a great, kind of collaborative process. And then the time came to release the thing, and he was like, well, I could kind of use a little help with coaching, because I want to offer this, as a mastermind. There was a self-study version, and then there was a mastermind group coaching. component to the program. And he said, I'm anticipating a lot of folks like signing up for this, and I could really use some help coaching. So it ended up being my first opportunity to jump in and really like work with folks one-to-one and in a group setting on starting their side businesses.
Oh, excellent. So how did that feel when you just jumped in there and you started to work with him on this program? And how did that transition to you stepping out on your own?
Well, it was really scary at first, like even just like when I guess it was about a year or so now ago where we were talking about launching this thing and that I would be like, facilitating small group discussions and working with people one-to-one. It was scary, but again, it was that whole, there's the fear, let's just demolish it and see what's on the other side, So I took the ball and ran with it and went and did that. And we had several cohorts of students go through the program, and I stuck with one cohort all the way through. It was a 6-month program. And during that time, I had started to take on a few clients of my own. And by the time the 6-month program was up, I was ready to go out on my own because I just had this pull, I guess, in my heart to kind of go and take this, and make it my own thing.
Oh, excellent. And then how's it been since you started your own program, of that transition from working with someone else to completely being on your own where it was up to you for everything?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of the appeal with working with Scott, out of the starting gate was I felt I had a mentor and I got to work with basically a master coach. I mean, the guy is amazing. And so it was like, okay, I kind of learned from the best. And so I felt like being under his wing gave me a lot of confidence. So stepping out on my own wasn't quite as scary at that point. And again, because this is a side business for me, I can take it at the pace that is comfortable for me. And so I can basically decide who it is I want to work with and be very, I guess, kind of discriminating about the types of folks that I work with and what I do. Because this basically is just a 15-hour a week gig for me. But yeah, so it's been good. I think that there's a learning curve to it, basically stepping out on my own and trying to figure out how to land clients, because that was the piece of the puzzle that I didn't really get with Scott, because it was basically the clients were already there and I was just jumping in and coaching. So it's really like basically doing, the discovery calls and turning a lead into a paying client. That's the journey that I'm on now, is just kind of honing that process and just figuring out how best to serve people in the process. Because what I find is I just love having conversations with folks. So I do a lot of just informal chats too with people that doesn't necessarily translate into business, but I'm building something bigger. So, and it is definitely for the long haul. Like this is something that I know, like in my heart, this just feels like the fit for me in terms of a business. So because I'm in it for the long haul, there isn't any rush and there really isn't much pressure. It's just about building relationships and creating community around side hustle.
Right. Oh, definitely. Because if you look at the number of people across the globe who they're wanting a little bit more, where obviously, they might have that similar story to yourself, having that debt there, but it might also be that, they want to start taking those family vacations, but they want to go from, let's just go to the zoo across town to let's go on a 2-week cruise or something. So it allows them to upgrade what they're able to do, but they just need a little bit more in terms of resources. Or it might be someone they want to be able to pay for their children's college education and be able to do it in a timely fashion, instead of like, oh, well, you're going to have to go to community college instead of the 4-year university, or a private school instead of a public school, or whatever it has to be, but they need a little bit extra resource.
Yeah, or it could just be people that want the challenge. Or they have a passion project they want to pursue. Like there's so many reasons. I think that's what it's kind of turned into for me. Is it's beyond the financial benefits now. It's really just something that's like another form of self-expression. So I get to express one part of who I am and what I do and what I'm capable of and what I can contribute in my day job. But my side hustle provides like another, like almost a companion piece to it. It's really cool. And so I think a lot of people are also looking for that. It's definitely more than just money, because you can just go down to the bookstore and get another job. So if you wanted a part-time job, so why start a side business? I think there's a burning, like a deeper reason for when folks are looking to start side businesses.
Oh, definitely, because it's all about what you want in terms of fulfillment. If you think about it, it's money. Like you said, you could go down to the bookstore. You could like go deliver pizza. You could do so many things if you just wanted extra money. But then at the end of the day, how many people are going to have that same level of fulfillment if, let's say, they're just delivering pizza or they're working at a bookstore or whatever that job is, versus doing something that excites them, that they look forward to after they've worked a normal 9 to 5 job, where like, hey, I'm going to work another 3 or 4 hours today on something. What gets them excited?
Yeah, exactly.
As that has that profound impact. So obviously when you started breaking off on your own, you had to, go out there and get clients for yourself. What were some of those initial steps you took as part of growing your own side hustle business? So
it's basically, I guess it's happened in a few different phases, but one step that I did take right away is there is a service called Coach.me, which is basically digital coaching. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's primarily text-based coaching. And it really is, the platform is really built for building habits, like healthy habits and accountability. It's not really the best fit for like a traditional type of a coaching situation, but they do have to where folks can hire a coach and they can also pay for phone calls too, or like Skype calls. So you can have this like text-based coaching with calls interspersed. But I basically just took the platform, and I had been using it as just like a user for years to keep track of different like healthy habits and things. But I took the exam, and I went through, and you need to coach a few clients for free in order to earn your certification on the platform. So I jumped in, and I just basically found a couple of people, mainly on Facebook. I just reached out and said, hey, who wants to jump in and do some side hustle coaching? Or side hustle, work on a side hustle with me. So I used it as a training ground for my own program. And that's kind of where the framework started to come together for me. Like I had all these ideas in my head, and I finally just got it out into a nice like structure and a nice format. And I put a couple of people through that for free, and they've launched businesses. So that was how I kind of got my first few clients and just kind of got kicked off doing this.
Oh, excellent. And that's a great way to do it, is to leverage platforms where people are going to be at. So obviously that was that first step. But then what did you do as you started to scale things up so you can begin getting your message out there, your name, so people start recognizing you as the side hustle coach?
So another thing I did a little bit later was I started a Facebook group, and it's called the Side Hustlers Haven. And basically that is a place where, I just wanted to bring a lot of side hustlers together to, support each other, provide accountability, different ideas, share resources, all kinds of things. It's really cool. I think of it as kind of like a little side hustler incubator where side hustlers can hone their skills and work on different things. So we do different activities in there that are aimed at like having people like look at their online presence, or maybe even recording videos, because a lot of folks want to incorporate video into their businesses in some way or another. But the Facebook group has been a good source of at least connection for me, so building my network. So I've done that, and I've also done a handful of podcasts as well, looking to do more of those to kind of get the word out. I also participated in a virtual summit a month or so ago, and so just looking to see where I can kind of get in there and get my message out.
Oh, excellent. And it's more and more people today are using Facebook groups as the way to build a community, because if you think about it, having a community of people that know, like, and trust you is one of the most powerful resources you can have. Mm-hmm. And when you look at your community that you've built up, what is, I'd say, besides the incubator aspect, what's been the greatest benefit about it?
Wow. I think it's been good for, I guess, to put it in these terms, but like a market research, like to really get a nice finger on the pulse of like what side hustlers need. Because I mean, I know from like what, I went through and what my experience was, like what types of resources and what types of struggles I had, but it's been great to talk to other people about, what they're dealing with. Like, the issue of not having enough time comes up a lot for folks, but that looks different, in different people's lives. So I think, it's been a just invaluable resource for me in terms of just connecting with, a nice community of side hustlers and getting that information. Right. Yeah. Like insight into like what types of products I could create, what types of services or, guidance I can provide moving forward.
Oh, excellent. Now, how have you been growing your Facebook group? Because I know if you think about people who are side hustling and think, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I should start a Facebook group. But then they think, well, I asked all my friends, they looked at me like I was nuts. So they have like their mom and like they have the profile for their cat in there, and that's about it. So how did you really grow it so it became that incubator for you?
Well, I started with people that I already knew online and in person here in San Diego. So I started with, the way I term it is I seeded the group with people that I knew were going to be engaged and were like excited about the subject matter. So I had built up a couple of friendships with folks online who were doing, similar things. And then I knew of a few friends here in town that, were either already doing something on the side of a full-time job or wanted to. And so I invited all of those folks in. And then just from that point on, it's really been just word of mouth. I haven't really done too much to promote it. And so we're a tiny group, but I say we're small but mighty.
The small but mighty. And that brings up something which is important, that people tend to focus on sometimes the wrong things, that they might think numbers is the most important thing. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a high level of engagement, does it really matter?
Exactly. And that's what's important to me, is that the folks that come there are getting some value and making connections. Like that is a big focus of the group as well. And I know that like people have met each other through the group, and have helped each other out. It's been really cool to watch that and facilitate that.
Right. Oh, excellent. Because I see a lot of groups on Facebook, and I've seen some that they might say, oh, we have 50,000, we have 100,000 or whatever. But if you start looking at the threads inside of it, it's consistently the same people over and over who are engaging. So when you think about it, is it really a group of 100,000 people or 50,000 or whatever? Or is it really that's your total number, but the reality is you have about 300 people who are consistently engaged in the community.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it all comes down to, it's where people have to understand, focus on the quality of people, the conversations, the interactions, more than just the sheer numbers. Because if you have that community, let's say you have 1,000 people who actively support you, it's better than having a group of 10,000, 100,000 people. And there's only 5 people in there that give a crap. Mm-hmm. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking to do something in, quote unquote, in the real world here in San Diego. I'm going to be putting together a meetup group here for side hustlers. So that'll be happening in the next month or so.
Okay, now that's a great thing to do. Now, why do you want to start a meetup in San Diego when you've done everything so far online? Because some people, they get this idea out there that I have to do everything virtual. So what's made you want to pull things offline as well?
Well, part of the reason is just because I have a small handful of friends here that are already side hustling, and we've talked about doing like maybe some co-working together, like, on a Sunday morning or something, we'll all get together at a coffee shop and just, work on our side hustles together. So, there is a need for it right here in my own backyard. So why wouldn't I put together a side hustlers meetup group? Why wouldn't we do that? I think connection is a huge thing, particularly for folks that are doing something that's a little bit outside the norm. Maybe their group of friends just has the 9-to-5 and comes home and that's okay, but maybe they feel, it would be nice to connect with other people who kind of get what they're trying to do. And there really is no substitute for FaceTime, like real in-person connection.
Oh, definitely. And that's meeting a need, which I see so often, especially with entrepreneurs who end up working from home, they're building up their own hustle, is that outside of, let's say, your typical Skype calls and things like that, you might go the entire day without physically seeing another person. So for some people, having that active engagement is really important. So where, you can come together in that collaborative space. When you think about the traditional work environment, you have the synergy where you're able to converse with people that many times it's removed when you're off on your own. And the only other way you're going to interact with people is like, let's say you take an hour or two every day or so to go to a Starbucks or something to work.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So it's really valuable that you're doing that because it makes a difference. And also, you never know in terms of the connections you can build up locally as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have one client that I work with right here in town. We just meet up at a coffee shop, and so I work with him. But so far, everything up to this point has been virtual.
And that's incredible. So now, when you look at your business as it's growing, what direction do you want to take it in? Because it's building momentum, and you're at that critical stage where so many people are like, well, it's a side hustle, but then do I go forward with making it the full-time hustle, or do I keep it as the side hustle?
For me, I'm planning to just keep it as a side hustle. I shouldn't say just. I mean, it's a side hustle. It's awesome. But I'm planning to keep it a side hustle, at least for the time being, because I am, unfortunate as this is to I don't know, for me to think about, but I think I'm one of the only people that I know who really likes their full-time job. So I hear so many people that want to just, escape the 9-to-5. And I don't know, I feel pretty fulfilled by what I do for my full-time job and the opportunities that I get through, being, in my company. And so I don't really have plans to leave. But I love the side hustle, and I'm open to wherever the road takes me, honestly. So I haven't made that determination yet.
And that's really important that you mentioned that, because there's so many people who, out there, they're promoting, oh, leave the 9-to-5, leave the 9-to-5, but you don't have to, because it comes down to one simple thing. It's about being fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have fulfillment, why cut that off from yourself?
Not only that, but I think a lot of people want to leave the 9-to-5 because they're maybe not, I think that they blame the 9-to-5 or the particular job or their boss or whatever for their unhappiness, when in reality, they don't necessarily know what would make them happy anyway. And those are the people that will start a business or a side business and take it full time and then end up being miserable because they've now just created a business that doesn't fit them, doesn't fit their lifestyle, doesn't fit their strengths, like whatever it might be. So in my opinion, it's like wherever you are, there, wherever you go, there you are. Like, you are the same person in a side business as you would be in a job. Like, you need to find out what makes you happy and what type of environment you thrive in, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a business or a job.
Right, exactly. So now, obviously, when you have the side hustle going on, you're doing these things, how do you create that balance? Because some people, what holds them back is they're working that full-time job, and then they know they want to do more, but at the end of the day, like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. I just want to sit on the couch, play with the dog, and call it a day. How do you keep going for another couple hours to work on your business?
Well, I personally am up early, so I do the work on my business before I go to my day job. So I know that that's not everybody's preference, but that happened to work for me. I really just kind of, when I realized that I was going to need the time for the business, I just kind of dialed back my wake up time a little bit. So I was waking up around 6:30, and I started waking up at 6, and then I went 5:30, and now it's closer to 5 a.m. So I have that little bit of time, on the weekday mornings before I head into the office. And then I spend a little bit of time on Sunday mornings. My girlfriend is in a master's program, and so she does work, like schoolwork, on Sunday morning, and I do work on the business. It works out nicely.
Oh, excellent. That's a great way in terms of having that balance, because so many people don't realize that you can get up early. There's nothing that says it has to be at the end of the day after you've expended all your energy, and now you have to find a little bit more. Yeah,
and I love the idea that I'm working on something for myself first. It's really cool to just know that, like, that particular part of me is getting expressed early in the day. Like, I get to write or, have conversations with folks, and it like fires me up for the rest of the day. So that's one thing, one way to look at it. But if you want to wake up early, you need to go to bed earlier. So then it has turned me into sort of a grandma. I'm in bed by 9:30 every night, and that includes weekends, which is a little bit lame sometimes. If my friends, like, we want to go out, I'll usually need to take a nap, but it works.
Right. That's the world we live in. We have to make those adjustments. While there's some people, they want to stay up until the crack of dawn and then some, but then they're not morning people, they're miserable. But then you have the flip side, you're going to bed early so you can get up early. It's a balancing act that you have to decide which is more important, like getting up early so you can start your day off right, or staying up late so that way you can participate in really late night festivities with people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think it also really helps to let the people in your life know what you're up to. Like, let your friends know, like, hey, this is why I need to, like, cut out and head home now because I need to get up early. I have this thing that I'm working on, and just kind of getting everybody on the same page so that they understand. That's really, really important.
Right. And it brings up something that's really valuable, and that's developing the friendships, the peer relationships with people that it reflects your lifestyle. Because if you have that circle of friends that all they want to do is like, oh, we're going to get together at 10 o'clock at night. Well, obviously that's not going to work for you consistently. Mm-hmm. So how do you develop the relationships with people that they want to get together a little bit earlier because they have that same thing where they might not be working on a side hustle at 5 a.m. For them, it might be going to the gym first thing in the morning.
Yep, exactly. I think you can be intentional about this, but I also think like a degree of this will just naturally happen over time as well as you start to, prioritize things and your availability changes, or, you'll naturally, gravitate towards the friends in your group that have a similar schedule or similar priorities. Like you said, whether it's, getting up and going to the gym or it's getting up and, working on a business.
Right, exactly. So now you've put all this stuff together. You're creating a local meetup group. What's the big vision that you have when you think about the side hustle? What people should know about what you want to help people do?
So I just want to take the analysis paralysis out of it, or the intimidation factor out of it. Because I remember when I was thinking about starting a side business, a couple years back, and just spending so much time bouncing ideas around and feeling like, none of them were any good, and I had no clue where to start. And there's a ton of information out there. There's a lot of courses you can take and a lot of like people you can listen to. And, at the end of the day, for me, it was just so frustrating. And I probably would have gotten something started sooner had I had somebody that I could have reached out to, somebody who was maybe on the path, like I could have like learned from. So that really, I guess, in a nutshell, is what it is. I just want to take the frustration out of it and help people really just dive in and start taking action.
Oh, excellent. Because that's what's needed. You look at just what you said. There's so much information. People can get that overload of info because you look at the number of experts that people can listen to on how to build a business, how to market a business, and so on. Before you know it, someone's like, well, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And to have someone like yourself help them navigate building that business on the side is extremely powerful, because they ultimately have to balance out building that business, but then also still maintaining that full-time job because they have to perform there as well.
Exactly, and also just keeping themselves healthy as well. So I use something actually that I got from Scott Barlow. It's called a master schedule, but basically what it is it's time blocking. So it works on that zero-based concept. So you have only a finite number of hours in the day, and you can use this schedule to block out, your activities for the day. And so what I do to make sure that everything is there and represented is I just make sure that I schedule in like time for the gym and time to hang out with my friends and my girlfriend, and all of that stuff is actually worked into my schedule. It's not just I have this meeting and that meeting and this thing for my business. It's all represented. And
time blocking definitely is one of the most powerful things to use, because once I implemented that in my day-to-day life, it's made a tremendous difference, because then I know that here's all the things that I will accomplish. How do I batch things together to make them more efficient? Mm-hmm. So it's much more powerful, because at the end of the day, by you doing this, you have more energy because you're not going in 10,000 different directions.
Exactly. I love the batching approach. Actually, we had, when I was working with Happen to Your Career, we had Mike Vardy, a productivityist, on the show, and he mentioned this concept he has called theme days, like theming. And so that's what I ended up doing So my master schedule template that I use is, this time blocking thing, but each day has a theme to it. So I do,
Right.
podcast interviews on one day. I do take coaching calls on another day. I write on another day, that kind of thing. It's been really helpful.
Right. Yes, it makes a big difference when you can direct your energy towards a specific goal and you stay active towards it and you stick with it regardless. There'll be people who want to pull you away from it, but this way your energy is there. Like I do all my podcast interviews in one day. So all the energy is focused on one thing. Nothing else takes place during the day except for that. So it makes the interviews that much more powerful.
Yeah, and you're not switching tasks, so much that you lose something in between. You're just kind of in the zone. You're in the flow state.
Exactly, and that's so critical. So as you look at everything, what's that one thing you recommend for somebody? They're thinking about starting a side hustle, but they're not sure. What's that one thing that they should be doing?
Well, when it comes to idea generation, I have a couple of things that I do with my clients to get them to kind of get the creative juices flowing and the ideas jumping. There's a few different ways to look at it. And as I mentioned, volunteer work is something that people really overlook. So I recommend that my clients basically do a huge brain dump of potential business ideas, and they just think about previous paid and volunteer work experiences, anything that you have skills, knowledge, experience in, but also list out your hobbies, like what are the things that you spend your free time on. Very important. But then there's a second part to this exercise that I go through with my clients, and this part actually takes you out of your own head, and it actually forces you to kind of crowdsource a little bit of this info from the people around you. And so I would say if folks want to get some really great ideas, or maybe something they hadn't thought of, find 5 people in their lives that know them and know their work, and reach out to them and ask them 2 questions. And the first question is, what would you say are my biggest strengths? And the second question is, what would you completely trust me to help you with? And you put that out to, people in your life that know you really well and know your work. So these could be coworkers, former coworkers, friends, family, anybody, colleagues. So you put those out, and it's really fun to see what comes back. And there's a lot of times like you will see, people will see things in you that you completely miss.
Right. And those things right there are extremely powerful, because too many times people don't think about what they're able to do, or they discount something, not realizing that they might have a particular skill set that's in demand that they think that everybody knows how to do it, but the reality is it's the exact opposite.
Exactly. Or something that, people don't necessarily want to do, like me with the social media thing. I just thought it was fun, and I couldn't really understand why other people didn't think it was fun. So
Right.
It was kind of like, for me, it was like, oh, wow, why would anybody pay me to do this? It's fun. So we spend a lot of time, when I work with my clients, we spend a lot of time in this, like, just idea generation stage, and like nothing is off the table. Nothing is a stupid idea. You just jot everything down.
Right. Exactly. There's really nothing that's a stupid idea unless you're planning on, let's say, jumping out of a plane without a parachute and no plan on how to land. Then that's just a really bad idea.
Yeah.
So it's all about, you have to take the ideas and run with it. And the most important thing I think that people have to realize is not being afraid to try, that even if something doesn't work, so what? Try again.
Yep. Yeah. I had the VA business for like 1.5 years when I realized that, I was kind of, hitting like a dead end with it. I realized that in order to make the amount, I guess, that I wanted to make, financially with it, or to scale it up, I would need to take on a lot more clients, and I just didn't really want to do that. And that was kind of the reality check for me, in, this feeling in my gut that maybe I wasn't on the right path. But had I not done that, I would I've never been exposed to the world of like personal coaching. And so, that's the important thing too, just to remember that once you're in action, like amazing things happen. You'll meet people, you'll get experiences, and opportunities will pop up where they never would have before.
Right, exactly. That's the most important thing there, is that the opportunities will start showing up as you show up doing what you truly want to do.
Yeah, and you start figuring out what you like and what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work, and really it's a process, a continual process. And, that's another thing that's just important, is to know that even though you choose your one side business idea today, it doesn't mean you can't change to something else down the line. It's all a learning process.
Right, exactly. And it goes back down to a business can evolve over time. If you look at some companies that they're not the same company today as when they first started, and it's just because times have changed and a business has to do the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So now, with all of that, how can people be able to reach out and learn more from you?
Well, I would highly encourage folks, if they are interested in starting a side hustle, to come over to my website, and I will have a Side Hustler's Toolkit there available. It's going to be at tracyminutolo.com/big movement. And the Side Hustler's Toolkit is a 4-pack of resources that'll help folks choose the side business idea that'll be best for them right now, their lifestyle and their goals. And it also includes that zero-based master schedule time blocking tool as well there for folks, so they can figure out how to fit the side hustle into their lives. So I highly encourage that. But also, if they'd like to be a part of the Side Hustlers Haven, we'd love to have them. So you can find out more about that at sidehustlershaven.com.
Oh, excellent. Well, I want to thank you for coming into the Big Movement podcast today and sharing your wealth and wisdom about the side hustle instead of just working the normal 9-to-5 job and then calling it a day.
Well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure to be here.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.